I recently got my Thai driver's license for both the car and motorbike, so in this video I'll be telling you about my experience and how you can obtain these yourself. Can you actually drive here legally in Thailand? So this is going to depend on both your license, whether you have a international driver's permit, and then if you're looking to drive a car or a motorbike. So you can see with a car here, if you've got a license in English, basically you're good for 90 days. If you're staying longer than that, looking for you to have an international driver's permit. Motorbike license just isn't going to translate over at all. So for that, you need to either have a motorbike permit from your home country and an international driver's permit in English, or you're going to need to obtain one here. So my situation is I'm from the US. I have a driver's license for a car in English. I don't have anything for a motorcycle. Doesn't matter the size here, they're all treated the same. It's one single motorbike license. So I wanted to obtain my car one just kind of optionally because I could here, and then the motorbike one, so I'd have that available. Now, can you rent a scooter in Thailand without a motorbike license? For sure you can. Doesn't mean it's totally up on up and legal. So where you might run into some problems here are if you actually get into an accident and you want your health insurance to cover you, they may very well deny coverage because you weren't legally driving that motorbike. Another problem here is if you're again in an accident and it's a major one, police find somebody at fault for something. If you're driving illegally, you don't have a license, then I think pretty much automatically it's going to be your fault for this accident, kind of no matter what happens. Really the most likely scenario you're going to run into is if there's a police checkpoint and they're stopping people there checking for IDs and you don't have one, then you're going to get hit with a fine. It's probably not exactly going to be a formal fine, but more of a fine you pay there on the spot depending on how much money you have and your negotiating skills at the time. Now, one of the nice things about obtaining the licenses, it's not just legal for driving in Thailand, but there's a whole slew of other countries that recognize this license as well. If you've got the license from Thailand, you can legally drive in countries like Malaysia, Philippines, and so on. Now, you are going to need to have a bunch of paperwork for this. Typically, you are also going to be here on some kind of non-tourist visa. Normally you arrive and just a regular person visiting for tourism would get a exception for a visa on arrival, so they don't even have a tourism visa. There's just an exception on arrival for a visa. You can apply before you arrive in Thailand and get more of a formal tourist visa. My understanding is pretty challenging to get the paperwork and everything you would need for obtaining a license if you're on a tourist visa, especially in Bangkok. Now, there's some services and driving schools that can help you out with this if you want to pay some extra money and go through them. Otherwise, if you're doing something on your own, my understanding is you'll have much better luck trying at somewhere in the provinces rather than Bangkok itself if you're just here on a tourist visa. So if you're on another visa, like a retiree one or some kind of work permit, then you're in a much better situation, whether you're in Bangkok or one of the provinces as well. Things are going to go a bit more smoothly there. So what paperwork do you actually need? You're going to need your passport. You're going to need a copy of the photo page. You're going to need a copy of the page for your entry stamp. Also, if you've got a TM30 or TM90 card in there, you're going to need a copy of that. Keep in mind that all copies in Thailand of everything pretty much are required to have your signature on them as well. At the office you go to, they're very likely to have a copy machine on site. I went to the office in Krabi, so there's a copy machine available there, cheap fee to go and take copies of things yourself. You're also going to need a certificate of residence. Now, this is the one I think maybe is a little more challenging if you are here on a tourist visa. This one you can get from your embassy, and I believe it's valid for 90 days if you do that. I don't know what the process is to obtain it there. You can also get it from your provincial immigration office, and when I did that and I applied for it, there were two check boxes there actually. One was for saying you want one because you want to buy a motorbike. Another was a checkbox to say you're trying to get a driver's license. I did check both. I only got one copy that was for just one, so I actually needed to go back to immigration, apply again, get the other one. So I think maybe there's a mistake on their part when I first applied for it, but I did get as two separate documents there, a copy of that sheet. They're going to want a original copy, but or original version, but a copy of that as well for the second license if you're applying for both a car and the motorbike as well. You're also going to need a health certificate. This is basically just like a light kind of physical thing. So you pretty much go into any clinic, say you're looking to get a certificate of health to apply for a license. Basically just going to check your blood pressure, ask you a few questions. It's going to be around 100 baht, and then you'll get a paper form that you'll also take a copy with and hand in with your application. Now, if you do already have these licenses in your home country, then congratulations, you're just going to need to go through some paperwork here. So that'd be a copy of your license that you provide them, or the license plus a translation and international driver's permit in English, so they can take that as support for that. So this is all I had to do for my car license, just provide them the Nevada state license I had and submit that paperwork, and didn't have to do any driver's tests or anything for that one. Now, how did this actually all work out for me? It took me 3 days in total. So the first day I did the paperwork, essentially I went to the immigration office, got the original paperwork that I needed, like the certificate of residency, I got the health certificate, and so on. I went to the Department of Transportation and let them know, hey, I'm submitting this stuff. I'd like to go through the process to get a license. It starts in the morning the next day here. I have read some things about being able to just walk in places and join classes. Maybe if you start the next day early morning, that's something you can do. But they did have a DLT app that they wanted you to sign up on. I did it on there. There was still some kind of trouble finding my reservation the next morning. Nonetheless, I'm in the class, so I'll put a link here too for that DLT website where you can go and schedule your appointment and say, this is the day I actually plan to come in and take the class. I need the class for obtaining the motorbike license. So day one, again, just a bunch of paperwork. Came there and submit my stack of forms for the car license and the motorbike license. So on the next day, day two, I believe it started at 8:30 in the morning, kind of getting everybody there in Thai time, making sure they've got everybody ready to go for the class, and then funneling us into there. The class is basically just hours of watching various programming on how to drive in Thailand, different situations, how to handle them, and so on. Something that probably everybody has already been through, maybe not for some time, but now you're getting a refresher, plus learning what might be a little bit different in Thailand here. All of the videos were in Thai, but there were English subtitles as well. This pretty much took all day, so this ran from the mornings, like 9 to 12, watching videos, break for lunch, and then more videos after that. This is all in preparation for the next day, which is going to have the actual driver's exam that's done online, and the actual driving exam itself through a course. Throughout this time, you can pay attention and learn some things. I would really recommend downloading an app or using some of the websites with the Thai questions on it to prepare for the exam the next day. A lot of these questions are, maybe a little bit tricky situations, or there's a lost in translation problem on some of them. They're kind of hard to follow, so you just want to go through a repository of questions so you know what's going to be on there, what to expect the right answer to be. I'll provide the website I used. There are a few different out there. Some of the questions I think were older and maybe even more difficult than the ones present today. I think it was 3 different websites I tried, and I ended up really working out the best on the one I'll provide here, which I thought was the most similar to the actual test I took. This is a 50 question test. You do need to get 45 correct. I had plenty of situations where I'd be close but not get that. After I practiced over and over with this particular app, I was ready for the test on day 3. Also, at the end of day 2, I was able to get my car license because that one was just paperwork. For some reason, I don't believe they give you a car and motorbike license on the same day. So kind of keep that in mind. You may need to have a minimum of 2 days if you've actually got to go through the exams and obtain one. I wouldn't want to show up on one day expecting that I could just last minute apply for the car one and get that in the same day. So just kind of a word of warning there. On day 3, we had all the examinations, so no more videos or anything. Again, I believe that was scheduled to start at 8:30. People are coming in and out of the testing room. There's not necessarily going to be a computer for every person there, so you might be able to arrive a little late for that one. I ended up getting a 48 out of 50 on the test and kind of blasted right through it. And really, this website is great practice for exactly what is going to be asked on that test. There's a few additional physical things to go through too. So one of those is a light test. So red, yellow, green, having to say which light's on, which color it is. There's a brake test where you're looking at something, waiting for a stop to come up, and then react and hit these brakes. So as long as you do that quick enough, you'll pass that test. And there was also one that's judging your depth perception. So there were 2 posts. One's kind of further away, and you need to move them till they're close and even, and then stop. And it's going to measure how close you were to that one. Now, the actual driving test itself was pretty lax. Where I'm under the impression the car one's probably a little more difficult, but as far as the motorbike, pretty much everybody is going to pass this unless they immediately crash out of the gate. There's a course that they have out there for it. It starts with a little bit of a slalom. There's a turn at a stop sign where you need to stop, look both ways, make sure your turn signal's on, continue on. There's a small hill. At the end, there's a plank, and I think this is common across all the motorbike driving courses, that there's this longish plank that you need to demonstrate that you can enter the plank and then ride it straight for 10 seconds at the end. The reality was, most people coming to the class are driving there already on scooters. If you failed this, you could come back the next day and take that test again. But I don't think anybody ever actually fails, because nobody seemed to really be paying attention or watching after you started. I couldn't tell if we were really doing the test. Is this a practice round or what? People just kind of came up, went through the test. Multiple people skipped that part at the end where you had to be on the plank for 10 seconds. Kind of didn't really matter. I don't think anybody was really paying attention, and unless you had a real severe problem, you are going to pass this test. Nothing to get too nervous about there. That part's going to be super easy. It's really the 50 questions exam test that's the part that might be a little bit challenging and something to focus on. After you complete the test, you'll go back in, pay the fee for the license, get a picture taken, and get that license as well. It's actually a different picture I have on both of my licenses here, so it's kind of funny they don't reuse the picture. You can also see when one guy positioned me a little bit better than the first one. Nonetheless, now I've got a valid license. These are good for 2 years for both the car and the motorbike. Yep, so that was my experience. Let me know if you have any questions and put them in the comments below.